All right, question of the day. Why is the game room just so wildly loaded? Now, you can't see this on frame, but the entire table here is taken up by Ticket to Ride. Rails to the west. We've got games on the floor that need to be reviewed, but it's irritating me, and here I am talking about a new game today. But question of the day, for real, what is your favorite something of the something something game? Now, we've got 8 entries now. I think we've got 3 North Sea, we've got 3 West Kingdom, now we've got 2 South Tigris. So what is your favorite something of the something something? Because I talked about Wayfarers last year, and now we're taking a look at Scholars of the South Tigris, and indeed, this has the potential to be either my favorite or my least favorite of all of these games. So let's take a look right now at Scholars of the South Tigris. We'll come back up and you can let me know your thoughts right now. Hey, before we go any further, the Dice Tower merch store has taken a leap forward in technology. We're no longer doing screen printing, we're doing full color, thousands of color images on each print. So today we're putting up the new Dice Tower logo preview and as well some more group gaming shirts. If you want these, get them now in the pre-order, and the pre-order system is much faster now. So check that out right now at dicetowerstore.com. Let's get to the review. So here is Scholars of the South Tigris in media res, as we've been doing lately. So we're a couple turns in here just to show you what's happening. There are tracks here on this board here. This is kind of the research track. Now you'll notice some color differences. You've got primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, and then some mixture colors of green, orange, and purple. Now those correspond to these 3 minarets up here as well, but also the dice. There are yellow dice, green dice, red dice, blue dice, white dice, and purple dice. And you will use those based on the actions you take. Now, there's a couple things I'm not showing you on camera yet, would be your player board and your player cards. But I want to get the main board out of the way first before I show you kind of what you do in your turns. So down here, these are hired or put into action translators. Now, your goal is to take scrolls and translate them from the origin language here, so this would be Persian, into Arabic. Everything's going into Arabic. So you're going to do that by following a couple different patterns. Now there is a chart here that shows kind of, the tiers, but really and truly you're trying to get it from, let's say Greek to Sanskrit, Sanskrit to, or Greek to Syriac, and then Syriac into Arabic. Your goal is to get those translated so that you can get the points on them. The points are in the top right. Now, there are multiple actions on this board that you can take, and then there's a couple over here that you can take. First of all, you can hire new translators, or you can dispel them too. The way the main game works is that you're going to take these action cards and you're going to play dice onto them to get a certain number and or color combination. Now, some actions require just the number, some actions require just the color, and some require both. You'll place the dice that you have pulled out of your bag onto these spaces, and then you can do color changing, which means you can take workers and make a green and a yellow dice become a blue dice, or sorry, blue and a yellow dice become a green dice, and vice versa. You can also take workers and add them to the same color dice. So let's say I put a white dice on a white 2, well, that becomes a 6. Now I know that's incredibly crazy at the time, but trust me, it comes into play a whole lot, and it gets a little bit more simpler each time you play it. But you're trying to combine color combinations so you can either take the actions out here, here, or here for color, and then number for here and here. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the most victory points, and the way you do that is by having influence across the board, and as well as translating the most scrolls. And the way you do that would be by taking your action. So you have a hand of cards here. Now, many of these have little bonuses at the top. So when you play this onto your player board, which I'll show you now, you'll put it on a certain action. So let's just say we go here on this action. Well, now I'm taking the research action here. I'm going to put a certain number of dice because I perhaps want to do this action, that one, or that one in order to spend gold and silver to get a better action. Spend gold to gain silver and get more bumps up on this track. The clear bonuses are going to be instant, absolute, just you take it. And then the solid ones are going to be things that you're going to take when you do the rest action. Now that is familiar to many of the blank games, a rest action, right? So you'll play these cards out. Now when you run out of dice, you can choose to do the rest action. Now when you play these onto your action board, you're covering up some of the default rest actions. Now you're always going to have this one here that will allow you to draw back up to kind of your dice limit, which is what that's all about here, this track. And as you go further on that track, you bump that up. Here, you're gonna gain more gold. Here, you're gonna gain more workers. Here's more silver. Here is more other bumps on this track. And essentially, you're gonna try to play your turns to where when you do the rest action, you're gonna take advantage of the higher tracks that you were on. Now, the move action. Now, this would be moving around this little board here. And the point of this is not only to gain bonuses, but to put the scrolls that are here while putting influence on them into the knowledge areas over here. So as you put a scroll over here to go into the top spot, you pay 4 silver for it. Now that scroll with your influence on it is available to translate. Once you translate it, you'll get it into your game, your board area here. Many of those will have base points on them, but as well as in-game bonus points. Plus, you also have a certain goal you're trying to reach personally here for a certain type of translator. So this one would be this fella here, Greek and Persian currently, but you'll notice these are not all the same exact card. He's Greek Syriac, Greek Syriac, Greek Persian, Greek Syriac. So it changes based on which card is on top. Now, instead of hiring these to put them down here in the actual usable translators, you can dispatch them and say, no, I don't want this one. We'll put them at the bottom. You'll pay the cost listed here, and then you'll get whatever bonuses. Now, if you were to hire them, you'd pay the cost listed on the actual hall that you put them in, flip it over, and now this one is free. Doesn't give you really a bonus except to put influence on a scroll, and now this one's available. So let's just say we had this scroll here. So we're going to go from Persian to Arabic. So we would use gold to do this. So this one could go gold from Persian to Sanskrit. This one could go Persian to Sanskrit. Then we could go Sanskrit to, let's just say, Syriac, and then Syriac to Arabic. You're going to be putting these gold out there for every translator you use in this kind of little chain. Once a translator has hit their retirement limit, which is listed at the top there, you'll take that card if you own it, based on the resource of influence there, you'll stick it under one of your actions, and now when you take that action, you'll get to do the basic action, plus any bonuses down here, plus any bonuses on the card that you choose to play. The game will play until all 4 Caliph cards have been put out, and then at that point, you'll total all the points, and the person with the most points wins the game. But you're gonna get points from scrolls, you're going to get points from having translators into your area. You're going to get a lot of points just based on that, but mostly you're trying to bump up these tracks and then also try to get as many scrolls as you can translated before the game ends. Now, again, that is a variable amount based on player powers because you put the Caliph cards into this deck, and at some point they'll show up. Right there, there's one. They will show up and you will do certain bonuses on that. There's also majorities when it comes to these 3 areas of knowledge here, as well as just other points you're going to get throughout the game, like I said, based on here, here, and then here. So that is how you play Scholars of the South Tigris. All right, so that is Scholars of the South Tigris. Now, I want to say, first of all, obviously the art is great. Every one of the Garphil games is phenomenal, right? It just looks really good. It's got that certain art style where you see it, you go, oh, that's a Garphil game. Except for that one that I saw on the cruise the other day. I thought, oh, man, but it wasn't. But the art is just tremendous. Now, let's talk about theming before we dive into, because normally we talk about art direction, and then gameplay, but I want to talk about theming for a minute. Now, this is a theme that I love as a textual critic. Like, I love talking about textual criticism, about how many documents you have and how old they were from the source of being written. I love the theme of this game. The idea that you're taking documents and translating them from Greek to Syriac to Arabic, and then from Phoenician to Syriac to Arabic, or Egyptian or Hebrew, and all this sort of stuff. I love the theme of this game. It is right up my alley. So as soon as I saw that was going to be the theme of this game, I reached out immediately to Shim and said, hey, and I sent him a couple thoughts, and he was like, yeah, I'll take a look at that as well. Like, I love the theme of this idea of taking documents and then translating them into one of the world's greatest libraries in antiquity, which we may or may not have some of still. But so that is the theme behind this. Now, the art, again, it looks great. Now, I will say the art direction on this one, to me, is easier than Wayfarers. I think what you do each turn makes a little bit more sense than Wayfarers, because the Wayfarers had the whole outside board, inside board, and the workers and all that. I like the dice drafting. Now, I know we're getting into mechanics a little bit, but I really like the idea of dice drafting and, you know, pulling out of a bag, and man, I need to build my bag up so I can get my purple dice so I don't have to use my workers. And you can kind of build that strategy of, well, I don't need workers as much because I have better dice. Or you could build the strategy up, well, I have great workers, so I don't need that great of dice. So to me, having that flexibility in how the gameplay works is really smart. And to me, I think that's one of the wins for this game. Now, I will say, as we go straight into, I think we kind of skipped over art direction a little bit. The symbols are all on the back. There's not a symbol you're not going to encounter, or you're going to encounter that's not going to be on the back of the box or the back of the rule book. So just so you know, every symbol you encounter is going to be on there, and you can look it up quickly and get to kind of, wait, what does that do again? Is that my hand? Is that my bag? All of that is in there, which I do appreciate. Now, I will say gameplay-wise, at first blush, this game feels too complex for what it is. And then when you start to play it, you go, oh, no, I get it. It's a little more simple than what it is. And then you vacillate between those 2 points for the entire time you're playing this. Man, this is too hard. Man, this is too simple. Oh, my turn was too easy last time. Now my turn is like, what do I even do? So much so that where every single action, give or take, except the research action where you're just moving up the tracks, is like, okay, well, what do I move this many spaces? What do I need to do that so I can put resources on here? Do I need that so I can put influence on that scroll so that maybe I can move that scroll over here? There are a lot of decisions that really seem simple, but at the end of the day will influence you later in the game, and you may need that because you always need silver, you always need gold, but you always need to be translating. ABT, always be translating. So, at the end of the day, as difficult as this one is to get into, like to me, this has the hardest learning curve of any of the something games. I will say though, I think it may be my favorite to play besides Raiders of the North Sea. I think these two are my standouts. I wasn't a huge fan of the West Kingdom games. I liked Wayfarers a whole lot, but I think these are my two standouts when it comes to the something games. Something about this, maybe it's the theme, maybe it's the idea of, okay, I like playing the cards down and then bumping up the actions with the dice. Something about that just works for me. However, like I said, this one's got a bit of a learning curve. So if you think you're going to dive into this like you did Raiders of the North Sea the first time, you are mistaken. This is going to take an intense teach. It's going to take somebody knowing the rules and the intricacies of the rules to know, okay, well, this does this now, and that's the Caliph cards, and then now this happens, this triggers, now you put your influence here, and now you put it there. There are a lot of little tiny rules that even when watching a video on how to play, you go, boy, this is kind of tough. Which is why I did a brief overview and not a full teach. There are great full teaches out there, but even if you watch a full teach and go, I don't need the rule book, you're wrong. You will need the rule book. This is a little bit intensive, and to me, and maybe I'm wrong because I didn't really play, I think I missed one of the West Kingdoms, and I played all the other ones. I think this may be the most rules intensive of the something games. However, I think it might be the most rewarding of those because of what you get to do. I like the whole Greek to Phoenician to Syriac to Arabic. I think that is such a cool system, and it really represents a time in history when textual criticism mattered and people were going, let's make sure we get this right. So, as a history nerd, I love the theme of this game. As an art guy for board gaming, I love the way this game looks. I even like the way the board looks and your player boards and how the art just matches up when you put a new worker into the translating area. It lines up. To me, all of that is such a great thing. However, like I said, a little bit of a learning curve, which to me dings it a little bit for my final score, but at the end of the day, this is a 7.5 out of 10. I really like this game. I think it's a great game. However, if you think, oh, let's just pull it off the shelf and learn it tonight, you're going to need a little more time than you would for some of the others. Now, maybe that's just group dependent. Maybe you have a group that is like, oh, please, Brian, you're an idiot. Why did you think that was hard? However, I think this one's a little bit more intensive, and you will see that played out in the game. But at the end of the day, 7.5 out of 10. Scholars of the South Tigris. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Until next time, we'll see you.